Deadpool is an action comedy film directed by Tim Miller. It stars Ryan Reynolds as a character named Wade Wilson, who is a mercenary for hire who discovers that he has terminal cancer. He undergoes some treatment, which winds up giving him superpowers, such as super strength and stuff like that. But the trade-off being that he is left disfigured. So as a result, he goes after the man who made him this way, and in the meantime is funny. So the movie came out last year on Valentine's Day, and the marketing behind it was absolutely extraordinary. Ryan Reynolds really got behind this character. I mean, he had played him previously in that really bad Wolverine movie, and they butchered the character. There was so much hullabaloo about, how they got the character wrong and everything. This time, oh man, they got it absolutely right. For starters, from the opening credit sequence, I was glued to this movie. It is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in film. I'm talking film history. I love the opening credit sequence. And not only that, just all the meta humor in the film. It was so self-referential. It was actually referencing Ryan Reynolds as a person outside of the movie. And it was, it was talking about itself as it was a movie. All the characters know that they're characters in a movie, which is true to the comic book. I mean, the comic book, quite often characters broke the fourth wall. They knew they were in a comic book. And so in that respect, they really adhered to the source material probably better than any comic movie that's come out in the past.
Well, the source material's that good, why would you leave it in the first place? It's just so fantastic. I'm sure we all know by now with regards to how recently it came out, that credit sequence alone, because Tim Miller himself has such a great background in visual effects, when they were designing that sequence to prove to the studios that a Deadpool movie was able to be done, they didn't have anybody cast in the movie at that point. So that explains the crazy credits at the beginning of the film. And when they had everybody cast and the movie was in production, it was all done, they actually went through and put the names into that credit sequence and then realised it wasn't funny because, we know that person. So it actually was a blessing in disguise that they kept it like it was, because it just sets up the film perfectly. There is absolutely nothing more that they have to do than to just put that credit sequence on. You know exactly what you're in for as soon as it begins.
One of the things I loved the most about this movie was the relationship between Wade and Vanessa. Oh man, it was one of the most realistic and believable relationships I've ever seen in a film, and I loved the two of them. I loved these two being together, which makes Wade's cancer, the realization of that, so much more tragic. And the calendar sequence, I mean, my God, it was so hilariously funny, but it just, it really showed you who these people were and what their relationship was like in such a funny and great way, and unique as well.
How many of you guys out there have celebrated International Women's Day like that? I know I haven't.
Yeah, me neither.
But that's also what makes Deadpool so great, is that for a little while they do put the comic book element aside and concentrate on the relationship between Wade and Vanessa. And when it does get revealed that he has cancer, it is truly sad. There is so much heart in their story that you could almost be ready to do away with all the action elements and all the comic book elements, because for me the better part of the film is Wade trying to reconnect with Vanessa after the experiment's gone wrong and he is how he is, and his desperation to reconnect with her. That alone driving the movie is just a testament to how good Ryan Reynolds is as an actor.
So in terms of the action sequences, being that this is obviously an action movie, by God, there was some incredible stunt work. There were some shots where there was a CG Deadpool used, that kind of stuff, but in the elements where there was actually stunt work, it was great. There were some fight scenes that were just so entertaining and enjoyable to watch, and no matter how many times you see the movie, they are always entertaining, which is such a great idea. In terms of having a couple of the X-Men characters in there, because this movie is set within the X-Men universe, they were great as well. One of the things that I wished was that they could have had maybe some more X-Men related stuff in there, particularly at the mansion where there's only the two of them. I mean, I love that they actually referenced that the film didn't have enough budget. That's cool. But at the same time, I kind of wish that maybe they did have, and a couple of other things where they, you know, were self-referential about the budget cuts and that, like the fact that Wade Wilson leaves his ammo bag in the cab, you know, when they get to the big fight, and it's like, oh, I don't have it, because they were just, you know, trying to cut costs and stuff. Like, yeah, that was cool, but at the same time, it was a little bit like, oh, come on, guys, really?
I think one of Deadpool's greatest strengths is that it knows its weaknesses and makes up for it with a fantastic attitude. Let's face it, the plot is not that dense. It's really just a straightforward revenge film. There's really not that much comic book stuff in it. As far as, say, your other comic book films go. But it has so much fun poking fun at itself and the comic book genre in general that it really doesn't matter. You know what you sign up for within the first few minutes of the movie, and it's not going to get much deeper than that. So for what it lacks in plot, unfortunately it does lack a lot, it makes up for itself with its own confidence and its attitude.
Another thing I loved was TJ Miller. I like that guy in every movie he's ever been in. There was just something about the dude's sense of humor that I really dig, and his character Weasel, who was kind of the, well, I wouldn't really call him the comedy element, because, I mean, the main character is the comedy element, so, but he was the secondary comedy element, if you will. I really dug him, but there was one thing, you know, and the bit where he's sitting there describing Wade Wilson's face and going through all those things, but because we'd seen other takes in the trailers and that, you just sort of know that the director sat him down and was just like, just riff, just, you know, say a whole bunch of stuff. And it did kind of come across a little unnatural in that respect, but overall, I really did like his performance. And one other thing I've got to mention that I loved so much was, no spoilers, but towards the end where they're having the main fight and it looks like Wade Wilson's about to be beaten down, I love that Vanessa actually stepped in and helped.
Yeah.
She wasn't just like a damsel in distress that he had to save or whatever. She was a kick-ass character, tough as nails, and I loved so much where she actually intervenes and does something proactive. You know, that was a really refreshing thing to see.
Probably one of the weak parts for me for the movie would have to be our own British villain, Ajax, Francis, whoever you want to name him, the bag of arseholes named Francis, as Deadpool refers to him. Let's face it, he really doesn't do that much for the story, and really all he's doing is creating genetically altered people to sell as war machines to, you know, warmongers around the world. Surely that can't be the only thing that he's threatening the world with. There must be a bigger force at play here. So he's really not that much of a villain. Even the scene in the bar where Angel Dust holds up Weasel against the wall while they're trying to find out where Wade is. I mean, that's Angel Dust being aggressive. That's not Ajax being aggressive. So he really doesn't do that much in terms of a bad guy, and really the only time he ever gets off his ass and does something bad is when he and Wilson or Deadpool are fighting. Otherwise, he's a bit of a weak villain, but I think that contributes also to the weak plot because, you know, let's face it, at the end of it all, it is Deadpool's movie, but they probably just could have given him a better villain to go up against.
So, look, this is one of my favourite movies of last year. If you've seen my top 10 videos, I think Deadpool came in at number 4. I thought it was extraordinarily good. Yeah, sure, it had its flaws, but I mean, this was a superhero movie that just broke the mold. It was not like anything we'd ever seen before. I loved the self-referential nature of it and the meta humor, all that sort of stuff. I love the character. I can't wait to see more of him in a sequel. And I'm going to give Deadpool a 9 out of 10.
So for myself, I'm just equally as excited. Unfortunately, Tim Miller's not coming back for the sequel. There were some disputes, apparently, for how the second film was going to go. So he has been replaced by one of the directors of the John Wick film, the first John Wick film. So I'll be excited to see what happens there. But as far as this one was concerned, could have done with a better villain and a better plot. So therefore, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
So, obviously, I mean, everybody's seen Deadpool, so let us know what your thoughts on it were. I hope you liked it as much as we did. Drop us some comments, either here or on Facebook. All the social media links are down in the description, down there in the bottom of the video and the box.
Unless you're watching on a TV, in which case you're probably just being pointed to your VCR or DVD player.
Yeah, drop us some comments in your VCR or DVD. Who has a VCR these days? Because we like to talk about movies, and we would love to talk about movies with you. See you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nah.